This video is a foundational must-watch video for understanding God's big picture of prophetic end times signs. The information is also very interesting and extremely important. This will sound very strange, but the Great American Solar Eclipse in 2017 that peaked in the middle of the country at 1:17 p.m. beginning in St. Louis, Missouri, is a prophetic sign from God that is revealing that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash in St. Louis, Missouri on the date 10/17, which hints at 1:17 p.m. The date that this video was posted proves that this prediction is being made ahead of time, as does this time-stamped email and forensic notes PDF document. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward these to you. The reason why the eclipse peaked at 1:17 p.m. is because the middle chapter of the Bible is the 117th chapter of the book of Psalms. This chapter also happens to be the shortest chapter in the Bible, and God uses records for signs. The number 117 is symbolic of the middle. The 2017 solar eclipse peaked in the middle of the nation at 1:17 p.m., which hints at the number 117. The 2024 eclipse will also traverse over the middle of the country, and its path of totality will cross over the path of the 2017 eclipse, precisely where it peaked. And the 2017 eclipse peaked in the middle of the path of totality of the eclipse. The 2017 eclipse peaked at 1:17 p.m. in the middle of the country. This is why the Roman Empire peaked in 117 AD. The geography of the Roman Empire reached its maximum expansion in 117 AD, and this hints at the eclipse that peaked at 1:17 p.m. in the middle of the geography of America. The eclipse peaked at 1:17 p.m. over the middle of the nation, and this hints at the middle of the Bible, which is the 117th chapter of the book of Psalms. The paths of the two eclipses that cross over each other in the middle of the country will engender an X over America. In Paleo-Hebrew, the Tav letter was an X. The inverse of the mark of the Antichrist is described in Ezekiel chapter 9, and it would have been a Tav mark. The X is symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist. An X is two lines that cross each other in the middle of each line. The paths of totality of the two eclipses will cross each other in the middle of their paths, and they will cross each other where the first one in 2017 peaked at 1:17 p.m. And again, this is because the middle chapter of the Bible is the 117th chapter of the book of Psalms. The middle chapter of the Bible, the 117th chapter of the book of Psalms, symbolizes the Bible. The eclipse peaked in the middle of the country at 1:17 p.m. in order to hint at the number 117 and to point to the Bible. This middle symbolism contained in the middle of an X is why the first thing, and you know what I'm talking about, the thing that you can't talk about, was administered on the exact middle date in between the dates of the two eclipses, which was December 14th, 2020, the 48th anniversary of the last American to depart from the moon in the Apollo 17 mission, which symbolized America's departure from Christ, as the moon symbolizes Christ, and the Antichrist is the 48th president, and the 2024 solar eclipse, which involves the moon, will occur on the date 4/8, which hints at 48. December 14th, 2020 was also the date that the Electoral College voted, and the cowardly, quote-unquote, Christian 48th U.S. Vice President later did not take the appropriate action regarding the electoral votes. The number 50 symbolizes the church, as the church age began on the 50th day after Jesus' resurrection. The 48th Vice President, Mike Pence, was the 50th governor of Indiana in the capital city of Indiana, Indianapolis. The path of totality of the 2024 eclipse that will engender an X, that is symbolism for the mark of the Antichrist, which will be used to persecute the church, will pass directly over Indianapolis, and this will point to the cowardly Christian Mike Pence, the 50th governor of Indiana. The name Pence is British English for the word that is the plural for pennies. This is because the mark of the Antichrist will be enforced through programmable digital currency that will be programmed to restrict the dissenters who refuse to take the mark of the Antichrist, the thing, from buying or selling food, as Bible prophecy explains. The 50th governor of Indiana, the 48th Vice President Mike Pence, and the path of the eclipse that will pass over Indianapolis, Indiana, hints at the acting Vice President, Kamala Harris, who is of Indian descent, who is predicted to die in a plane crash in the middle of the country, which will lead to the rise of the 48th president, the Antichrist. The mark of the Antichrist is designed to test the faith of quote-unquote Christians. The middle date in between the eclipses is symbolic of the middle of the X that the paths of the eclipses will engender in the middle of the country. And because an X is symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist, the fact that the symbolic first thing was administered on the middle date is confirmation that the thing is the mark of the Antichrist. Furthermore, an X is symbolic of a pair of chromosomes, and chromosomes are altered by the thing, which is one reason why it is a spiritual abomination and the mark of the Antichrist. The X over America that will be engendered by the paths of the eclipses over the middle of the country is symbolic of chromosomes that are altered by the thing, which was first administered on the middle date of the eclipses. Ancient Rome is symbolic of the Antichrist system, and the geography of the empire peaked in 117 AD. The Emperor of Rome is symbolic of the Antichrist king. The 2017 eclipse peaked over the middle of the geography of the country at 1:17 p.m. and lasted for exactly 4 times 40 seconds, which identified the 44th president as the Antichrist king. This is why Hank Aaron, player number 44 for Atlanta, the home run king, publicly took the thing in Atlanta, the home of the CDC, on the first day of the 117th Congress. The 117th Congress, for the first time ever, was ceremonially opened with a prayer to a pagan god instead of the God of the Bible, a book in which the middle chapter is the 117th chapter of the Book of Psalms. Atlanta is named after the mythical, technologically advanced Atlantis civilization, and this is symbolism for transhumanism. The things are transhumanism technology, and this is why the CDC, the quasi-military organization that pushed the things, is symbolically headquartered in Atlanta, and why it is that the home run king, player number 44, publicly took the thing in Atlanta. In the book of Revelation, the number of the Antichrist is 666, and the home run king for Atlanta, player number 44, died 6 plus 6 plus 6 days after he took the thing. Mass shootings are symbolic of the thing that are SHOTs that kill masses of people. Player number 44 died exactly 444 weeks after the Dark Knight Rises Batman movie massacre in Denver, Colorado. Denver, Colorado is the highest major city in America, and Colorado is the 38th state to join the Union. Bama is the Hebrew proper name for a place in Israel that means high place. Obama, which hints at Bama, held his Democratic National Convention presidential nomination acceptance speech in Denver, Colorado. Like the 38th president, which is hinted at with the 38th state, Gerald Ford, who was never elected vice president or president, likewise Obama will become the president again through being appointed instead of elected. In the Bible, the number 42 appears in context of instances of slaughter, and in the book of Revelation, the Antichrist is said to rule for a symbolic period of 42 months. The Dark Knight Rises movie massacre was exactly 42 months after the rise of the Dark Knight president with his first presidential inauguration. A biblical month is 30 days, and in Bible prophecy, the period of the Antichrist of 42 months is the equivalent of 1,260 days. Obama's inauguration was in turn exactly 1,260 years after the deadliest earthquake in Israel's history that killed tens of thousands of people. The number 117 is symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist, which is the thing, and it is symbolized by the SHOTs in mass shootings. Obama's inauguration was exactly 117 months after the Columbine High School mass shooting in Denver, Colorado. The Columbine mass shooting symbolically began the trend of mass shootings in schools. This mass shooting was perpetrated by two boys whose names were Klebold and Harris, which hinted at Kay Harris, Kamala Harris. In fact, the first name of Klebold was Dylan, which hints at Kamala Harris's middle name, Devi. Dylan Klebold gives us K.D. Harris. And this is why the Columbine mass shooting was exactly 12,600 days after the birth of Kamala Harris. 12,600 days hints at the symbolic 1,260 days period of the Antichrist in Bible prophecy. This 12,600 days is also exactly 600 plus 600 plus 600 weeks, which hints at 666, the number of the Antichrist. This 600 plus 600 plus 600 weeks is also exactly 414 months, which hints at 4 times 1 and 4, and therefore the 44th president. From the birth of Kamala Harris to the inauguration of Barack Obama, it is 414 months and then 117 months for a total of 531 months. It is 531 days in between the first and last blood moon lunar eclipse in a prophetic blood moon lunar eclipse tetrad. The intervals between the blood moon lunar eclipses is 3 sets of 177 days, and although it can't be explained here, The number 177 also hints at the number 117. 177 days is in turn 3 sets of 59 days, and Kamala Harris is predicted to die in a plane crash 3 days before her 59th birthday. Her predicted death on the date 10/17 will also hint at the number 117. It is through the replacement of Kamala Harris after her predicted death in a plane crash that Obama will be appointed the president again. Her death in a plane crash is predicted to be on the date October 17th, 10/17, which hints at the number 117, hence the 117 months connection in this trail of signs from her birth to the inauguration of Barack Obama. Obama's inauguration on the first day of his presidency, which was exactly 117 months after the Columbine shooting, on January 20th, 2009, was also exactly 117% of a year before he signed his nationalized health care, the thing his presidency is most known for. In other words, the symbolic beginning of Obama's presidency connects with the number 117 to the thing that symbolizes his presidency. 117% of a year is exactly 61 weeks, and the Antichrist was born in 1961, and the number 61 is the 18th prime number, and 18 equals 6 plus 6 plus 6, which hints at the number of the Antichrist. The number 117 hints at the mark of the Antichrist, which is why the Antichrist's inauguration was exactly 117 months after the SHOTs in the mass shooting, and was exactly 117% of a year before his nationalized health care, and it is him and his socialist ilk that will enforce the mark of the Antichrist through collectivist health care. The Antichrist king is the 44th president, and the home run king, player number 44, died 6 plus 6 plus 6 days after he took the thing on the symbolic first day of the 117th Congress. Hank Aaron played for the Braves in Milwaukee and Atlanta, and he also played for the Milwaukee Brewers. Milwaukee and Atlanta were the only cities that Hank Aaron played professional baseball for. And the day that Aaron took the mark of the Antichrist on the first day of the 117th Congress was 117 days after the Milwaukee and Atlanta baseball teams scored 19 and 29 runs respectively in their games on the date 9/9, September 9th, in 2020. If you are not familiar with baseball, 19 runs and 29 runs are an extraordinary amount of runs to score in a game. The number 9 symbolizes God's judgment, and Atlanta's 29 runs were the second most runs scored in a game since the year 1900. In a game in 2007, 30 runs were scored by the baseball team from Dallas, the city in God's prophetic signs that symbolizes the American Evangelical Church. There was one player that coincidentally played in both record-scoring games, Nick Markakis, player number 22. The name Mark Kakis hints at the mark of the Antichrist, which is symbolized by the number 22. As the Tav letter, an X in Paleo-Hebrew, is the last and 22nd letter in the Hebrew alphabet. The mark of the Antichrist is described in the last book of the Bible, which is the 22nd book out of 22 books in the Bible that have a total of 22 chapters. In the book of Revelation, a period of 1,260 days is symbolic of the period of the Antichrist. God uses records in his signs and Nick Markakis held the record for most games in a row by an outfielder in which he did not commit an error. It was 398 games in a row that he did not commit an error, and the number 398 is the 126th semi-prime number. A semi-prime number is a number that is only divisible by two prime numbers, and the number 126 hints at the symbolic 1,260 days of the Antichrist who will enforce the mark of the Antichrist. This prophetic sign involving Nick Markakis and his streak without committing an error is because errors symbolize sin, for which we are all guilty of and require God's forgiveness. The city of Athens, Greece, symbolizes democracy. The end of Nick Markakis' career in the autumn of 2020 was at the same time as the end of democracy in America, which is leading to the return of the Antichrist, who will officially end the Constitution. Nick Markakis' last game of his career was played on the date 9/27 in 2020, and the date 9/27 hints at the last verse of the 9th chapter of the prophetic book of Daniel that regards the end of the age and the end times period of the Antichrist. Nick Markakis is of Greek ancestry, and he played for Greece's national baseball team in the 2004 Olympics that were held in Athens, Greece. Nick Markakis played Major League Baseball for 15 years, and the 15th triangular number is the number 120, which is a number that symbolizes the church, as the church age began on Pentecost with 120 disciples. The name Nick hints at the Nicolaitan doctrine of the evangelical church, which is Reformed theology that is taught to pastors who study in the seminaries in Dallas. This heretical doctrine that is rooted in Gnosticism leads to the doctrine of once saved, always saved, and the myth of imputed righteousness as understood by evangelicals. In the book of Revelation, Jesus said that he hates the Nicolaitan doctrine and is coming to make war with the sword of his mouth on those that teach and have the works that are a product of this doctrine. The word Nicolaitan is derived from two Greek words that mean ruling over the laity. Jesus forbade calling or following anyone as an authority other than him, yet quote-unquote pastors or priests or reverends claim to have authority over their equal brothers and sisters. And Jesus also strictly forbade preaching the Bible for money, which pastors and priests and people that give their money to pastors and priests disobey. Make sure you watch the 23 church signs video on this channel. The book of Revelation says that those who take the mark of the Antichrist will go to hell. Yet the Bible does not say that someone cannot beg for mercy from God and be forgiven if they have already taken it. The mark of the Antichrist is the thing. The purpose of the prediction that is from God that is being made in this video, for example, that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash, is to prove this to you and to end the controversy and debate. The thing is not a supposed precursor to the mark of the Antichrist. It is the mark of the Antichrist in its current form, and it does not need an additional technology to go with it, nor some sort of false religious worship, nor the beginning of some sort of new supposed dispensation after the rapture. Dispensationalism is rooted in the heretical Reformed theology and Nicolaitan doctrine that Jesus said he hates. Nick Markakis was born on the date November 17th, 1117, which hints at the number 117, which is symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist. 1117 also hints at the Antichrist, who is described in the book of Zechariah 11:17. 11:17 also hints at the first instance of the word owl in the Bible in Leviticus 11:17, and Barack Obama is known for being a night owl, and this was in contrast with his predecessor George Bush, who was known for being an early bird. The date 1117 also hints at H1117 in Strong's Concordance, which is the word Bama, which hints at Obama. Nick Markakis was born exactly 444 months before the 44th president finally released his long-anticipated autobiography book, A Promised Land. When the Israelites took possession of the Promised Land at the city of Jericho, they demonstrated a symbolic 3 sets of 7. They marched around the walls of security 7 times while 7 priests blew 7 trumpets. It is 444 months from Markakis' birth on 1117 to Obama's A Promised Land book on the date 1117, and 444 months is the equivalent of exactly 37 years, and the number 37 hints at 3 sets of 7. It was Joshua who led the Israelites into the Promised Land, and Joshua died at the age of 110. The record-scoring game by Dallas in 2007, which Nick Markakis played in, was 110 years after the last time a team scored 30 runs in a game. In the 2007 game, Nick Markakis played for the Baltimore Orioles. Orioles is a type of bird. It is predicted that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash due to a bird strike on October 17, 2023, exactly 35 months after Obama released his A Promised Land book. It was the 35th president, President John Kennedy, who also died while serving in the White House. Markakis was selected in the 35th round of the college draft. Markakis chose not to sign with the Major League Baseball team and instead play for a college named Young Harris, which hints at Kamala Harris's predicted plane crash due to a bird strike 35 months after the release of Obama's book. It is predicted that Obama will become the president again exactly 35 days after it is predicted that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash, which is predicted to be exactly 35 months after the release of Obama's book. The number 35 is the 23rd semi-prime number, and the following year, Markakis was selected in the 23rd round of the draft. He again chose to play another year with Young Harris College. 23 is the number that the basketball president wore when he played high school basketball, and 2023 is the year of Harris's predicted plane crash due to a bird strike, and the predicted year that the basketball president will become the president again. In the record-scoring game, when the Atlanta Braves scored 29 runs, on the same day that the other team that Hank Aaron played for scored 19 runs, on the date 9-9, in which played Nick Markakis. There was player number 23 who hit a record 9 runs batted in. God pairs the numbers 9 and 23 together in his signs to confirm the signs and connections, and also because the inverse of the mark of the Antichrist is described in Ezekiel chapter 9, and the mark of the Antichrist changes one's 23 pairs of chromosomes. Player number 23 batted in 9 runs, also because the Antichrist is the basketball president who wore jersey number 23 in high school and became the president in 2009 and will become the president again in 2023. The home run king died 6 plus 6 plus 6 days after he took the thing on the first day of the 117th Congress. 117 is 9 times 13. From the Bible, the number 9 symbolizes God's judgment, and the number 13 is symbolic of the Antichrist. The home run king, player number 44, died 6 plus 6 plus 6 days after he took the thing on the first day of the 117th Congress, and 117 is 9 times 13, and player 44 died from taking the thing 9 months and 13 days before the date 11/4, which hints at 11 times 4 equals 44, the day of Joe Biden's mandate on November 4th, 2021, for government workers to take the thing, which was exactly 99 years after the discovery of King Tut's tomb in the Valley of Kings. And in the Bible, the king of Egypt is Antichrist symbolism, and this mandate was exactly 13 years after the Antichrist king was first elected on November 4th, 2008. The home run king, player number 44 for Atlanta, died in Atlanta after having publicly taken the thing in Atlanta for publicity for the thing at the request of the CDC that is headquartered in Atlanta, and he died 6 plus 6 plus 6 days after he took the thing on the first day of the 117th Congress, and he died 9 months and 11 days, which hinted at the 9/11 warning of judgment, on 9/11 in 2001, before the Atlanta Braves won the 117th World Series. The prophetic last out of the game was made by the player named Freeman, player number 5, and this was on the same day that the FDA, along with the CDC in Atlanta, approved the thing for 5-year-olds. The middle chapter of the Bible is the 117th chapter of the book of Psalms, and the 2017 solar eclipse peaked over the middle of the country at 1:17 p.m. The path of totality of this eclipse also first entered the nation when it passed over Salem, the capital city of Oregon, at 10:17 a.m. In Hebrew, the word Salem means peace, and the number 7 is God's signature number. The path of the eclipse first entered the nation on the west coast in the 33rd state to join the Union, and then passed over 7 cities in America named Salem before it exited the nation on the east coast on the 33rd parallel. Jesus is our peace, and this is because he died and was resurrected at the age of 33. The eclipse entered the nation at 10:17 a.m. and then passed over St. Louis and peaked over the middle of the country at 1:17 p.m. This is why Kamala Harris is predicted to die in a plane crash in St. Louis on the date 10/17. Her predicted crash in the middle of the country and her death on the date 10/17 will point to the eclipse that entered the country at 10:17 a.m. and peaked at 1:17 p.m. over the middle of the country. As a result of her death, the Antichrist will rise to the president's office and will enforce the mark of the Antichrist that is symbolized by an X and the number 117, which is why Harris's plane crash and death will point to the X over the nation that will be engendered when the 2024 eclipse's path will cross over the path of the first eclipse that peaked over the middle of the country at 1:17 p.m. Aliens and UFOs are demons masquerading as aliens and UFOs. Most people's spiritual experiences are demonic deception, especially if they are not a true follower of Christ. Jesus died for you. It is time to repent, which means to change one's ways and turn to God and become a disciple of Jesus. Please leave a like and upvote the video. And once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more. Don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. It is essential that everyone immediately read the homepage of my website, TrumpPrediction.com.